Amy Price, AM1, Director of Development, Community Homeless Solutions.
Regina Williams, our Program Director for the Chinatown Navigation Center.
We showed up because the City of Salinas has been a major funder in homelessness programming in the community, and the Chinatown Navigation Center, they're looking at cutting costs and they're looking at a closure date for it unless some solution can be found. And tonight they voted to give us more time to find the funding through March of 2026, which allows us to look at strategies for new funders, to look at strategies possibly for new placements. Any number of things could happen. And we're thrilled. I don't think there's anybody on this council or in this city that wants the situation with people who are homeless to get worse. This isn't about the quality of the work or the importance of the work. This is a budget issue. And we are very, very grateful that they have given us through March of 2026 to see what we can do to attract more funding for this important work.
What is that number that they're allotting you guys to get you through the winter into March?
That's a little bit of a variable because I believe one of the things that's important is we've talked to the coalition of homeless service providers for Monterey and San Benito counties, and they are considering an offset to help us as well. So I think a little bit of this is contingent on what the coalition comes up with, but I think the number was between $300,000 and $400,000 that it would cost to push it to March.
And how did we get here? What led to the lack of, or has it always been a lack of funding?
Hey, native son, John Steinbeck, he got really famous and won a Nobel Prize writing about people who didn't have homes, farm workers, independent men who fell out of work. I mean, every community always has a population of people who cannot afford housing, and different circumstances can escalate that. If the cost of building or the lack of land and space or the lack of community support, any of those things can make a tough thing tougher. Yes, funding has been drying up in the last year. We've seen executive orders that are threatening or curbing revenues that nonprofit programming and cities and counties have counted on. And that's going to happen. That happens all the time when there's elections, when there's a shift in the economy, a recession. We're used to that. We can work through those cycles. But what we need is time to shift where revenues come from. And the City of Salinas has been a great partner and a good funder. And they're simply saying, who else can pick up some of this burden? And we're like, okay, we heard you. We're going to find some other people that can pick up a share of this burden. Because people do care. They really do.
So what's the biggest challenges you guys have been facing that this funding will help aid in? I know that's a broad question. There's a lot of things going on.
The first thing that popped in my mind is to keep our clients safe so that we can continue to work with them, keep them dry, healthy, and we'll be able to give them the services, getting them income, getting them into housing. We use community landlords and making sure that they have permanent stable housing, they have the wraparound services, and we're going to walk with them till we get it right and we get them safe.
I thought of staffing. Regina and her staff at Chinatown Navigation Center are amazing. We're not in the business of shelter beds. We're not really excited about telling you how many meals we gave our clients in the course of a year. What we're excited about is how many of our clients left the shelter and moved into stable housing they could afford. Maybe we helped them get benefits. Maybe they needed an ID to prove they'd been a Marine to get access to veterans benefits. Maybe they needed help getting a job. Maybe they needed to prep for landlord interviews. Whatever it takes, our metric is moving people into permanent housing. And we've got good people who have really built up that muscle. Regina can call a landlord that nobody even knows might house one of our clients. She's like, look, you've done it before. Will you give us another chance? The relationships that our organization has built, that Regina and her staff have built, are priceless. We're not just putting people into public housing. We're finding private landlords who will accept our clients because of the work that they've done and that we've helped them do. So I would hate to lose the staff. You can't rebuild that overnight. It's a commitment that our staff have to not just our clients, but the community.
Yeah. So I know this is a hard question, but what's the conversation going to be like when March comes around next year?
Oh, the conversation's going to be tomorrow and the next day, just like it was yesterday and the week before.
Absolutely.
We are constantly looking for new ways to present this to new markets. I mean, sometimes it's a matter of looking for individual donors. Sometimes it's reaching out to, one of the people mentioned, faith-based organizations. The Interfaith of Carmel organization invests in our work. Maybe we can work with them to talk directly to the member congregations and synagogues and say, hey, could we pick one day a year and pass the hat? Every little bit helps. But a lot of it is public opinion too. If people think that this is wasted money, they're going to call their elected officials. They're not going to pick us on a workplace giving campaign. We really want to stress our success. And it's not feeding people and letting them sleep in a bunk bed. Our success is moving people into housing that they can afford and keep going.
The thing that I want to express is I'm grateful, and I'm thankful to the council and to the people that supported us. I'm grateful to the communities and the landlords that open up to us and they walk with us. And we have a lot of, like Milpa, they talked about how they come into our facility. We have a lot of vendors and a lot of people that come in and they service our people right there where they are. So they don't have to go anywhere. They have resources that are right there for them.
Evening, Mayor, City Councilmen and women, and City Attorney. My name's Keishla Lopez, and I am the Homeless Services Manager for the City of Salinas. As many of you recall, I came before you on May 27th to give you an update on our city's homeless services projects. During that time, I had mentioned that the primary funding sources for a lot of the projects that we have begun implementing since 2020 were grant-funded projects with a low reliance on general fund. I had mentioned during that presentation that we were in a shortfall for the Chinatown Navigation Center of approximately $1.5 million. And I was asked to explore different options of potential funding opportunities by collaborating with the county, the coalition, and to come back and present my findings in August. So I am coming here before you to give you a couple of options that we have ran through. And so unfortunately, given the short timeline and lack of community resources, the Chinatown Navigation Center will be closing at some point. Today's discussion will determine when the closure will take place. And the city has been working with the Community Homeless Solutions, the coalition, and the county to seek additional funding. One of the requests that City Council have made in May was to try to get this through weather inclement. And so what we determined was in order for us to get through weather inclement, we would need a budget of $587,000 to get us from November to March. I presented at Leadership Council back in June to request funding to support the operations of the Chinatown Navigation Center. We have been informed that there is only $200,000 potentially available through Leadership Council, but our shortfall was 1.5. So because of that, we do anticipate that there will be a closure necessary, but we're hoping to get it through March. And so with that being said, today's ask or recommendation, we have provided two options for council to make a policy decision. The first option is we will not allocate additional funding and we will close the Chinatown Navigation Center on November 30th, 2025. The second option is that we appropriate $387 of additional funding from our Budget Stabilization Contingency Fund if the Continuum provides an additional $200,000. Together, that will get us through weather inclement. Should should Leadership Council not appropriate the $200,000, we can then return again to this council and ask for the full amount. And so,
If we do not fund the Navigation Center, how many residents are there living there right now?
so the bed capacity at the Chinatown Navigation Center is 50. I would have to check how many beds are currently filled, but there usually is around 48, 47 individuals at any given time.
And where would those residents go?
So we have been in partnership with the coalition and the county. We, Leadership Council have approved a 90-day priority hold for coordinated entry assessments. So what that means is that in the next 90 days from August 1st to October 31st, coordinated entry will prioritize households affected by the Chinatown Navigation Center. So that means that they would be prioritized when beds become available. Say, for example, the Fairview, who were pending to open at some point soon. Interim also has some PSH options. Dorothy's Place also is open through coordinated entry. Moongate Plaza. All of these are examples of different types of housing options that could be available through this priority process.
And also the Share Center?
Yes.
That be also?
Yes, so we will explore permanent housing solutions and temporary housing solutions. So we will be working in collaboration with the county to prioritize the bed filling of the Share Center beds with people who are currently at the Navigation Center.
So
Okay, and what's the current wait list looking like for the Share Center? Okay. Well, I'm taking these numbers from the presentations shared to the Community Human Services Regional Board. The current wait list as of August 19th is 616 individuals for the Share Center alone. Of those 616, 46 are single women, 66 are single men, and 504 are families with children. How likely would you say it is for the Continuum of Care to allocate $200,000 for a program that, regardless, is still going to close down at some point on another?
Unfortunately, I can't give you an answer on that because there's a lot of different things at stake. The Continuum of Care is responsible for providing funding to all the different nonprofits that serve homeless services providers, and so they have to weigh out and assess the different programs that need support, and so I couldn't say with a certainty, you know, if they're leaning 50% this way or 70% that way. It's going to be contingent on a vote, just like it would be contingent on a vote here as well. So there's no way to really know. 50% of the homeless population is within the city of Salinas. I believe the number of the total homeless population is around 2,400. The number of shelter beds that we have in the city of Salinas with the Share Center and the CNC is about 150 beds. So we don't have enough beds for the number of people experiencing homelessness in this current moment.
This issue's here because of the funding, lack of funding. What's happened at the national level, what's happening at the state level, it's really constrained and really sucked away some of the funding, some of the resources available moving forward. The city of Salinas has done a remarkable job of trying to stand on more bed space. Casey talked about Fairview hopefully coming online soon. That's going to bring more beds that are currently not available. There's 2 other home key projects that hopefully over the next couple of years will generate more beds, but it's not going to generate 1,200 beds. It's going to generate maybe over 100, 150 beds. I'm trying to figure out the number, but you're talking about that range. So it's going to give more ability to transition folks, hopefully to permanent housing solutions. But I think we can talk about the current program. Maybe Casey can help me out on that because I know it's hotel vouchers and stuff. That's the way it's been done. I know that Lisa and the team are looking at, can we develop that program a little bit more defined? It's a little different than it was in Santa Cruz. And they had a much different approach to providing inclement weather capacity. That's not the way it's done here, but that doesn't mean that we can't work with the county. The county acknowledges that we maybe need to shift it a little bit. So I don't have a good answer for you now. I have an answer that we're working on it.
Good evening again. Name is Eric Peterson. A couple funding sources that would be easy. One is repeal to repeal and use the money that would have gone into the election. There's over $1 million there that could go to this cause. Another one is stop the counterproductive sweeps and use that money. Those sweeps do nobody any good. They just cause trouble and basically harming the homeless.
Amy Price, Community Homeless Solutions. I'm not asking for a handout. We're a workhorse. None of the other programs have put as many leases for permanent supportive housing in the community as we have. They might have put in more individuals. You move a family of 8 into a house, that's 1 lease. Every person we move from Chinatown Navigation Center is a lease. We're averaging a person a week for years. And when we started, we had 15 beds. And it wasn't a person a week back then. We get better, stronger, faster every single year. We found out in May that this was on the chopping block. It's been 3 months, and we've already worked to leverage almost $250,000. I'm not asking you to pay for this for the next 10 years. I'm asking you to give us until March to see what else we can leverage. We met with the mayor. We had an issue with our permanent supportive housing. We got properties when Fort Ord was decommissioned. We've owned them 25 years. Guess what? They all need roofs, paint, sealant. That's a massive capital campaign. We started on it last year. This is not good times for raising money for homelessness. We've raised $750,000 already. If you give us a chance to keep your best producing shelter in terms of housing individuals who've been chronically homeless, you give us a chance and let us see what we can do.
Wes Weiss, Salinas Monterey County Homeless Union, asking you to keep the budget flowing until March. You're not even doing a warming shelter. You're going to spend $1 million and $1.7 million on a special election. Where are you coming up with the money for this? You should spend it on people, not profits, private gain. And that's not what public service is for. It's to be a public service. When is that going to happen? Stopping the sweeps is certainly one of the biggest points. I'm going to push that people do organized space. It may not be legal, but it's going to be reasonably defensible. Okay, it's going to be curb appeal. You're not going to see a blanket of trash. You're just going to see tent and ground. You're going to see organized space. You're going to see the trash put on the curb. And those people deserve a level up. Give them a pass over. What's going to happen to these 50 people if you kick them out right now? They went from having citizenship to no citizenship. We don't care about you if you live outside. Did you pay your protection money of rent? Well, here comes the gang to come and rob you. It's a Ponzi scheme you guys play every day. You ain't got no money to help people. You'd rather keep them on life support than support life. And that's a problem. When is that actually going to come to fruition? I've been begging this for over 10 years. This is how I started. By coming to city council, prick me for a nickel, prick me for a dime. But when you start attacking people, I got to get in front of that directly. That's wrong, dude. And how are you gonna tell me, as someone that believed in you, until you just come out to be full of lies, killing people? You need to stop the sweeps.
Thank you. Luis Chavo Juarez for Building Healthy Communities. So again, confronted with opportunities. Want to recognize that these 50 residents that run this risk of being unhoused. Let's take this opportunity now to identify this as that much needed investment in our most vulnerable. You have 50 very vulnerable residents of Salinas. And of course, it sounds like more of a discussion with our county electeds. That partnership, what it can demonstrate for the rest of us as residents of Salinas, is a degree of compassion from this body right here. So let's keep this open till March, please. Thank you.
Good afternoon again. My name is George Villa. I'm here with Milpa Organization. I'm the Policy and Program Manager. I also urge you all to keep the Navigation Center open. I know it's a very hard decision, as you mentioned, but they're doing amazing work there. The organization that I work with has been going there for several years now to do record reclassification for those that have been punitively sentenced for nonviolent offenses, where they're actually able to stay out of jail, clear their records, get a job. And I also know that they create there's a safe space there where they offer showers, warm food. Even when we go and do presentations there, the staff is very friendly. There's always volunteers from CSUMB students, from the Learning Center. And this is an issue that is really big in Salinas. Now the homeless are getting younger. And I overheard the other day that the Monterey County now has the highest students that are homeless or something like that. So I think this is an issue that needs to be addressed, and they do amazing work there.
Thank you, Carla Lobo. I urge you to support the continuing funding of the Chinatown Navigation Center because equity demands that our unhoused neighbors receive the same dignity and access to services as any other resident of Salinas. This is not only the moral choice, but the practical one. I worked in Chinatown in 2020 with CSUMB and saw firsthand how deeply people wanted stability and community. The CNC has provided over 932 households with shelter and placed 200 households into permanent housing. Cutting funding would erase this progress and force more people back onto the streets, which is both inequitable for them and more expensive for the city through increased ER visits, policing, and crisis interventions. We also know shelters across the entire region, which includes the peninsula, are full. People calling the coordinated entry system are told they may wait months or even years. So even if they get priority, they're not guaranteed housing. Wraparound services are overloaded. If Salinas doesn't step in, the gap only widens. Expanding capacity to even 2% of the unhoused population would not just meet a moral obligation, it would save taxpayer money by reducing the cost of the costly cycle of displacement. Funding the CNC is both an equitable investment in people and a financial responsibility investment in Salinas. Again, all other shelters are completely full. There is no guarantee. And the fact that we don't even know how many people will be misplaced is very concerning.
Hi, this is Martha. I am an advocate and I do work regularly in Chinatown. I'm part of HERS, helping empower reentry services, and I'm actually leading a project here in the peninsula called Homeless Outreach Team. And what we're doing is we're bringing services to Chinatown and across the peninsula where we're meeting members where they're at. One of the issues that we've come across is the decrease, there's not enough beds in the shelters. And I do work with many members at the Navigation Center, and something that we've been working on lately is finding jobs. They're in fear. Many of them have no plans on what their next steps look like. I see a lot of young men out there with diagnoses that require more support. And so I definitely want to encourage to keep the Navigation Center open. There's men and women of all ages that are heavily relying on the Navigation Center. So if we don't have anywhere to put the members, for sure, please really consider keeping the navigation open until March. Thank you.
I'd like to motion to appropriate the $387,000 of additional budget funding from the Budget Stabilization Contingency with the caveat that I think it's been made very, very clear that there is a shelf life to this. But one of the things we take away from the previous conversation we had, it's time for Salinas to work together right now. And and while there, in my view, was a legitimate policy disagreement, and people of goodwill may disagree, the one thing I believe about Salinas is it has a heart. And we do need, we've got a 2-week decision in front of us, and now we've got potentially a 4 or 5 month runway to really think this through, because this issue is linked to all of the elements of the homeless issue. Because everybody is buying time because we have to come to terms with this this funding issue across the board, whether it's the city or the county. But I do think one of the signals we want to send to the county is that we know we need to work together on a go-forward basis. And again, people have made goodwill, may differ on how you deal with encampments and that sort of thing. And that's a tough conversation. But I know.
I think that our budget allocation for community human services is $40,000 a year for the city of Salinas. I think that's our agreement right now. I think we may need to look at revisiting that as a larger annual contribution than just that. That'd be one of my requests. And I think it's been 2 years, and I think in May I also brought this forward, that Councilor Barrera and I brought forward at least an agenda item discussing possible sanctioned encampment or tiny home villages. So I'd like to, request that we bring that back for discussion.
And there are some people that say you need to stop the sweeps. Well, you know what? There's a big mess out there as well. It's called a health hazard. If we can figure out ways how to deal, Mayor, with the unhoused that choose to live in tents, whether it's a choice or not, I don't know, but there's got to be a way of how we can keep these areas clean as well. Because for those of you that are critical of government, you're just hurting people. Well, you know what? If somebody dies out there because of a health hazard, guess who you're going to come to? Over here, and you're going to criticize us. You're going to criticize us whether we do or we don't. And I think the assistant city manager is bringing us to a good place, Ms. Lisa, where we're now really focused on going after how do we work with these folks that choose to live outdoors, again, for whatever reason. I think in a collaborative effort, we got to figure out how we can come together, however that looks, but it's not always about money. It's really about communication. A few years back, and I'll shut up with this, in Chinatown, there was a group of unhoused people that came and told the city government how they would like to manage themselves in a little area, govern themselves. But you know what we did? We put it to the side because we were too nervous about it. Instead of listening how they would like to see it, they said we would be willing to govern ourselves and make sure it stays clean. I think there's something there.
Yes, because I have to tell you, we're just moving people. We need to house them, and that's our vision, is to create housing, permanent housing, right? I think every agency that is in Monterey County, that is the vision of everyone, for everyone to have housing. So to close the Navigation Center and to have people not feel secure that they have a place to go, I know